Hello, it's time for Flashback, the weekly history quiz. Let's find out what's happened in history. We're starting in 1787. Hamilton and Madison warn of the risks of having political parties. They soon start the first parties. Classic. That's in the U.S. political history, of course. So there we go. Here we have a scientist, Edward Lorenz, uses seagulls to explain the theory of chaos. A colleague suggests another creature, and the idea becomes the butterfly effect. I would assume this to be basically sometime in the modern era. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but certainly the 20th century, I would think. Yes, 1972. Okay, maybe even slightly later than I would have guessed. Starting as a palace maid, Wu Ziqian rises to become China's only female emperor, both ruthless and effective. Quite an impressive rise. Well, that'll be well before 1787, I'm certain. Yes, 690. Okay, so more than a millennium earlier. A poet, Edward Thomas, can never pick which path to take. As a joke, Robert Frost writes him a poem, Two Roads Diverged in a Yellow Wood. That's amazing. That's an incredible origin of that fairly iconic poem. Well, that'll be the early 20th century, I think, is Robert Frost. So, yes, 1915. Okay, a mom, Betty Henson, has an old green coat. Her teenage son, Jim, uses it, and 2 ping pong balls to create Kermit the Frog. Amazing. Do I think that's before or after 1972? I bet before, when Kermit was first created. Oh, wow, much early. Wow, okay, I would have guessed the 60s. 1955, did not realize it was that early. Okay, that's fascinating. I wonder how old Jim Henson was at that time. At 17, Ella Fitzgerald prepares to debut as a dancer at a talent show. Nervous and intimidated by rival dancers, she switches to her backup skill, singing. Fascinating. I bet that's a little before 1955. Yeah, 1934. Okay, more than a little bit, 20 years earlier. The Songhai Empire becomes one of Africa's largest. If you stood at the source of the Niger River, it'd stretch from there to, well, Timbuktu. I'm going to assume that's sometime between 690 and 1787. Yes, 1493. Okay. Using copper chisels, workers carved the first limestone blocks for the Great Pyramid of Giza. They'd only need 2.3 million more blocks to finish it. Yikes. Well, that's obviously well before 690. Yes, 2550 BCE. It's unbelievable how old those are. In England, Lincoln Cathedral finishes its central spire. At a reported 525 feet tall, it's one of the first structures to rise higher than the pyramids. Fascinating. I mean, the medieval era, I'm going to guess maybe the 1300s or something like that. Look at that. Nailed the century. 1311. Very pleased about that, about that peg. Well, there we go. Happy with my performance this week. Oh, right. Okay. And definitely in the minority for the perfect scores this week. So I'm quite pleased about that. I bet that Lincoln Cathedral one I bet that tripped people up. Okay, 10% of people misplaced the pyramids. I'm slightly surprised about that. I wonder when those people thought that would have been. Just about everybody got the Chinese empress correct. Half of people misplaced Lincoln Cathedral. That doesn't surprise me. I think that's fair enough. Oh, wow. Oklahoma City voted last month to allow construction on the tallest building in the U.S. That is surprising. Sort of feel like there's just fewer of those new tallest buildings these days because there's so many tall ones. Okay. A third of people roughly misplaced the Songhai Emperor. Sorry, I keep saying that, empire. Just about everybody got Robert Frost correct. Nearly 10% of people misplaced Ella Fitzgerald. A fifth of people misplaced Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog. I can understand that. I thought that was going to be closer on the line than it actually was. And only 1 out of 20 people misplaced butterflies and chaos theory. Well, there we go. That was a fun one this week. Hope you enjoyed it as well. I'll be back next Saturday with more of this. Bye for now. Take care.